The second visit this year to Portugal. We're just 25 kilometres from capital Lisbon, north of the Atlantic coastal town of Estoril, with its luxurious hotels, restaurants and Europe's fifth largest casino, the inspiration for the original Ian Fleming novel Casino Royale. The penultimate roll of the dice on the 2024 Motul FIM Superbike World Championship. One of only two venues remaining from World SBK's inaugural 1988 campaign, the Estoril circuit was constructed as part of a new wave of motorsport venues in the early 70s and has hosted all of the biggest world championships on two wheels and four. This is World SBK's sixth visit, and we had some outstanding racing on our last here in 2022. The main overtaking hotspot is at the end of the 986-metre-long start-finish straight. A fifth of the time spent on the brakes around the entire circuit is made up of the 6 seconds to slow the bike from over 320 kilometres per hour to just 75 for turn 1. On our last visit, Jonathan Rea mastered the Parabolica Interior, turn 6, 90 kph, only the second left-hander of the lap, and a break in an otherwise high-speed section of the track. And it was Rea again at turn 9 on the last lap of race 2 in 2022, passing Alvaro Bautista for the most recent race win around this venue, the Hook, the slowest corner on the circuit and the widest at some 18 metres. Rea has also set the last 5 fastest laps here and holds the race lap record from race 1 in May over 2 years ago. Six races in 9 days to decide the 2024 Motul FIM Superbike World Championship, but we might not need the trip to Jerez. Toprak Razgatlioglu has insisted that the championship will take care of itself, that getting back to winning ways is the first priority. And if he does that at the 2024 Estoril round, that could well be enough to wrap it up before we head to Spain next week. 3 weeks on the sidelines, 2 missed rounds, and he's still scored as many race wins, 15, as the rest of the field combined. But he's greedy for more in a weekend that could provide his first championship point. Steve English alongside me. Toprak has proven throughout his time in World SBK, but particularly this season, he is a winning machine.
Yeah, all Toprak wants to do is win races. That's what was quite interesting yesterday whenever he was asked about the championship and how he'll approach things this weekend. He did say that I will focus on trying to win these races, but if I'm in a position where I have to think about the championship, I will be willing to settle for second position. And for Razgatlioglu, settling for second is something that hasn't really ever entered his mind in the past. So I think he's going to be out there focused on trying to convert this pole position into an early lead and try and win this race. Yeah,
pole position, as you say, for Toprak Razgatlioglu, starting certainly as he means to go on here. The championship leader, 39 points ahead of Nicolo Bulliga, second in the standings. Alvaro Bautista, the only other mathematical contender, he is 81 points back from top spot. Last time out in the Aragon round, Danilo Petrucci passed Alex Lowes for 5th position, and close further down the order with only 2 points separating 3 riders in the battle for 6th place, Andrea Locatelli, Andrea Iannone and Michael van der Mark. But realistically, in the context of the championship, points lost, opportunities missed for Nicolo Bulliga during the absence of Toprak Razgatlioglu, and that's why Toprak was able to return in such fine style in Aragon.
Yeah, Toprak last time out in Aragon was at 99% of what he could do, is what BMW have told me, but this weekend he's been back at 100% and ready to come in here this week and make sure he'll pick up his race wins and wrap up this World Championship. For BMW, obviously massive to have the opportunity to do that, and there's a bit of pressure on everyone's shoulders this week.
Great performance from him in Aragon, 20 days off the bike, but straight in to score 49 points, 3 second places, and his reward, a flight back home, because until then he'd been driving across Europe for treatment and to attend the rounds, and he's certainly flying again this weekend. His 6th pole in the 9 rounds he's contested for BMW.
Yeah, and Toprak has been in great form all the way through this weekend. He's looked fast in the dry, fast in the wet, and that pole position just showed how much confidence he had as well. Obviously, Danilo Petrucci in the middle of the front row probably had the fastest bike in the Super Bowl session, but a mistake in his final lap, that's what cost him the pole. But Toprak was making sure he was able to put in a good lap regardless.
Here are your permutations. Toprak Razgatlioglu just needs to maintain his advantage over Alvaro Bautista to rule him out of contention before we go to the final round, because he's got such a gap to try and overcome. His main focus will be on getting this over the line against Nicolo Bulliga, and if he does pick up 23 points compared to Bulliga over this weekend, that will be job done. First and third for the two of them them in all 3 races, with Toprak winning them, would be enough to seal the title.
Yeah, and it's no surprise if Toprak's able to win all 3. We've seen him do it so many times already this season, and if he's at his best, that's what he's going to be aiming for. And I think for a lot of the riders, they'll know what they're up against on that run down in towards turn 1 on lap 1, particularly the likes of Petrucci on his Ducati, and trying to give yourself the opportunity to even lead this race is going to be tough.
Grey skies, and it is in these conditions that you always wonder if there are even bigger opportunities for potentially major points won and lost.
Yeah, and everyone at the end of each season is able to point to those moments that they can look at and say that was the turning point. But I think over the course of what we've seen this season, it is probably about right that there is that margin between Toprak and Bulega, and then back to Bautista as well.
Yes, and of course, had Toprak not missed those 2 rounds, then his advantage would be bigger still, and we wouldn't even be talking about going to Jerez, I don't think. Toprak Razgatlioglu had strung together 4 unbeaten rounds. Let's see what he can do here in Estoril. Toprak Razgatlioglu is back on pole in Estoril, where he secured his first in World SBK in 2020. This his 18th career pole. A 3rd front row start in 5 rounds for Danilo Petrucci, matching his best super pole from the 2023 Czech round with P2 here. Jonathan Rea completes the front row, taking advantage of wet conditions again for only his 2nd front row start of the season. Crashes for Alex Lowes and Alvaro Bautista leave them on the 3rd and 4th rows respectively, while Nicolo Bulega is off the front row for only the 3rd time in 2024. And a couple of surprises, most notably Taz McKenzie making it up onto the middle of the 3rd row. He starts from P8. Building up then to this one, we had wet conditions in the Super Pole session earlier on today, and as I said before we went to that presentation video, the dark clouds and the mist are looming over Estoril once again.
Yeah, and as you can see, as we make our way down the grid, there's not a lot of riders have gone to the grid. The reason for that is most opted to ride through the pits for a 2nd exploration lap, just to see what those track conditions are like after the rain shower at the end of the WCO race.
And for the moment, what are they going to find out there? It looks pretty dry for now.
Well, we did have a lot of rain at the end of that race, and that's only around about 40 minutes ago. So for the riders, they just want to make sure what the track conditions are like, give themselves as much information as possible before the start of the race. But it does look like there's patches of rain out there at turn 1, and the rest of the track seems pretty okay from what we're hearing.
Yes, patches of water, standing water on at turn 1, and that could be a big risk for riders, particularly the opening lap when they head through there for the first time.
Yeah, definitely, and one of those situations for the riders where just having that bit of time on the track should give them that extra confidence heading into turn 1 on lap 1. Obviously, we'll have that warm-up lap as well before we get underway, and that time they'll be able to run down through turn 1 themselves.
Well, just waiting for Toprak Razgatlioglu to make his way to the grid.
You can see, though, for Razgatlioglu sliding through the last corner, elbow down. Track's not in bad condition.
Not for him, anyway. Everyone else perhaps a little bit more reluctant. We'll see how we get on when we get underway with racing.
Quick look over his shoulder there as well for Razgatlioglu. I was expecting a bit of showboating in there to meet Andre's mechanic down there at the end of the starting grid.
He does, though, know the enormity of this weekend, I think. Even his comments to the media imply that there's a certain gravitas to this round in particular, maybe more pressure on his shoulders, having come back after 2 rounds absent. Obviously, the scores were very, very close by the time we went to Aragon.
Yeah, there's no mistakes about it. The Toprak and BMW didn't know the importance of this weekend. They know the importance of winning this championship. Razgatlioglu took a gamble to go to BMW. He wants to prove to everyone just how good he is, and the only way to do that is to win the championship.
119 days as the World Championship leader, and potentially just one more away from getting the title over the line. He's only missed out on the podium 3 times this season, all at the Australian and Dutch rounds, chasing his first win since race 2 in Portimao, which was the last of a 13-race unbeaten run.
Yeah, and for Razgatlioglu, obviously wants to make sure he's able to pick up where he left off from Aragon and pick up those big points.
Danilo Petrucci, P2, only scored 25 points at the Aragon round. His worst score actually since Donington Park, and also his first round without a podium since then. Was still enough though to move into 4th in the championship, and theoretically he could wrap up the independent award here if Andrea Iannone hits problems.
Yeah, and for Petrucci, obviously that top independent role, it's a big one for the team, probably more important for the team than it is for the rider. And for Petrucci, it's about trying to make sure he's able to get back on the podium after not getting a podium last time out in Aragon, but all the way through the summer he's been fast and consistent.
Does confirm his step up this season, that he's dominating in the independent standings. Remember, he was beaten last season by Axel Bassani, and that fact might be a reason for him to be even more keen to get that done this weekend. Completing the front row of the grid, Jonathan Rea, who made his return from injury in Aragon a fortnight ago, only scored 5 points, so he'll be pleased to return to one of his happiest hunting grounds. Winner of 4 of the last 5 races here in Estoril. This is also the venue where he wrapped up his 6th world title in 2020.
Yeah, you can be sure that Rea is one of the riders hoping that there is a little spit of rain during the course of this race, but on the front row of the grid, his race pace has been good for much of the season. It's just about trying to make sure you're able to get off the line and stay in that lead group.
Another Superpole award for Toprak Razgatlioglu, his 6th pole position of this 2024 campaign, and on double the number of pole positions now that Tom Sykes managed for BMW. And Toprak hasn't even finished his first season with the manufacturers yet.
Yeah, Toprak's just been able to do such a good job all the way through this season. Superpole races as well, and it really has been a case of perfect season for him so far.
Second row of the grid for Andrea Locatelli, Nicolo Bulliga and Michael van der Mark. Locatelli, who was 3rd in the championship, leaving Phillip Island in February, and a challenge for race victories there since his last podium in Most. His battle's just been to make the top 10, and he's only done so 6 times in the last 4 rounds. Best Superpole since last year's Aragon round, gives him the opportunity to run at the front at least early on here. Nicolo Bulliga, 23 points he scored from the Aragon round a fortnight ago, his worst score since Assen. Lost 24 to Toprak Razgatlioglu at the Dutch round, and the championship lead conceded there. Lost another 26 points in Aragon last time out, and now 39 behind. It is hard to see him pulling back that kind of margin without major misfortune for Toprak.
Yeah, he needs Toprak to have technical issues or other problems, and that's the only real way that Bulliga is able to bring that fight to him. Particularly the way this weekend's gone, the wet sessions into a dry race, pretty much the first dry weather running we've had for much of the weekend. A little bit of time yesterday in free practice too, but it is one of those situations of trying to give yourself the best opportunity to score big points, and Bulliga doesn't have that right now.
Third row of the grid here with Sam Lowes, Taz McKenzie and Alex Lowes. Sam extends his stay with the Mark VDS team into a 6th season, as his place on the grid for 2025 is confirmed. His 2nd season in World SBK. Lowes says he was always working to a 2-year plan after making his switch from Moto2. Certainly plenty of promise in the opening 3 rounds of this season, but he's been struggling with a shoulder injury in recent rounds, and that certainly hampered his performance. Second row of the grid completed here by Michael van der Mark. This is the venue, remember, where he suffered his right leg fracture in free practice 2 in 2022, but he has also been on the podium here in the Superpole race in 2020. Van der Mark 8th in the championship, his big 38-point score at the French round keeping him in the hunt for 6th overall, just 2 points behind Andrea Locatelli, who starts ahead of him here. And now we can join Kiko Giles, who's down on the grids.
Thank you, Alex. I'm back here with Alvaro Bautista. Alvaro, not the Superpole you were hoping for. What can we expect in race 1?
Yeah, another difficult Superpole. No, I crashed and I cannot improve my lap time. But in any case, the race will be, almost new for everybody, because this condition we found yesterday a little bit on FP2. So let's see what happens. Finally,
Alvaro, Toprak looks like he's got a bit of a different level. What's the strategy with Nicolo? Will you be battling with him or working with him?
Well, I try to battle everybody, no? So here there is not like a team order or something, no? Just respect, and that's all.
We look forward to it. All the best.
Thank you.
And we have seen, to be fair, in the rare occasions that the two of them have had to fight, Bautista's picked his way through with some intelligence and some wisdom. So I don't think there'll be any great issue there. Third row of the grid, Sam Lowes, Taz McKenzie and Alex Lowes. Taron Taz McKenzie, race winner in the wet in Supersport last season, again showing his liking for those tricky weather conditions earlier on today. His previous best Superpole was P11 at Assen in April. Finished 11th in race 2 of the Dutch round as well, and that's the only weekend at which he's so far scored in 2024. Alex Lowes, 9 points in Aragon, his worst round of the season. 4 non-scores in the last 3 rounds as he finished on the sidelines with a leg injury a fortnight ago. That delays him moving ahead of Noriyuki Haga to go 5th in the World SBK all-time appearance records. This will be his 315th Superbike start.
Yeah, important for Lowes to be able to come through this race, score some decent points. Obviously, coming through much of the season, he's been in that fight for 3rd in the World Championship. Just a bit too far behind on Alvaro Bautista for that, but it's about trying to fight with Danilo Petrucci for that 4th in the championship standings as well, and only 13 points between them.
Alex Lowes with 4 appearances for Honda, 50 for Suzuki, 112 for Yamaha, and this will be his 149th for Kawasaki to move 5th on the all-time appearance records. Really has been one of the greats of World SBK with a brilliant longevity in this championship. Yeah,
longevity counts for an awful lot, and for Lowes we've been able to see him probably at his best through the course of this season. So it's about trying to make sure in these final 2 rounds you're able to finish the season strong.
Yes, and a fight still with Danilo Petrucci for 4th in the World Championship standings, even if Alvaro Bautista has now escaped away. Row 4, Axel Bassani, Alvaro Bautista and Andrea Iannone. Bassani 5th place in Cremona, his best result so far. 18 points from the Emilia-Romagna around his best weekend, but those bright spots have been few and far between. 8 points for 2 12th positions finishes in Aragon, and he's on exactly 1/3 of the total of his teammate Lowes. Expectations would have been somewhat higher for a factory rider. Alvaro Bautista, 5 scoreless races for him in Most, Portimao and Magny-Cours leave him 81 points behind series leader Toprak Razgatlioglu. Bautista's priority is to show more of the kind of form he did in Aragon last time out. 50 points he scored there. First time he's hit a half-century this season. Last year, he managed it at 8 of the 12 rounds.
Yeah, in the dry, though, he can be in the mix, and certainly for Bautista, he'll know that this weekend is all about trying to make sure you're able to score as many points as possible. Try and fight with Razgatlioglu and give yourself those opportunities, but he'll know from that 4th row it's not going to be easy.
We see home hero Miguel Oliveira, Moto GP rider on the grids, and I think that there's plenty of attention on his shoulders. We've seen some hats already here in the World SBK paddock.
Yeah, certainly for him, a hero here in Portugal, and nice to be able to have him here, even though obviously he'd prefer to be still getting ready for those flyaways at the end of the MotoGP season.
Completing the 4th row of the grid here, Andrea Iannone put in his best World SBK weekend yet at round 10, scoring 44 points and his first win, but that immediately followed a 7-point score at the Italian round, and it's that kind of inconsistency, isn't it, that leaves him down in 7th in the standings. Nonetheless, made a comeback after 4 years out and has become a race winner again, so super story for Andrea Iannone. 5th row of the grid for the 2 Hondas, Vierke and Lecuona, as well as Michael Ruben Rinaldi. For Vierke, it's a first. He's enjoying his best run of consecutive points finishes in the championship. 13 from race 2 in Most to the present. The last 11 races in the top 10 for him. Vierke had a 5th place finish on his last visit to Estoril, and Honda certainly on their best run of form since their competitive early part of 2022. Ilkka Lecuona, 9 consecutive races in the top 10 for 68 points, more than half of his season's total in those recent rounds, so an average of 23 points from the last 3 rounds, and managed 2 of those finishes from the back of the grid after failing to set a time in Magny-Cours, so he should come through the field here. Michael Ruben Rinaldi, just 23 points from the last 4 rounds, only 2 top 10 finishes in that spell. There is something to cheer for him though this afternoon, as he makes a record-breaking 217th race start for Ducati, with which he surpasses Chaz Davies as the all-time appearance record holder for the Bologna manufacturer. Of course, appeared for the Aruba junior team in 2018, for Barni Ducati in 2019, for Go 11 in 2020, 3 podiums and his first win. 2021 to 23 in the factory Ducati side, the Aruba.it Ducati team was 4th in the world in 2022, and this season racing for Moto Corsa. But unfortunately, it does look as though his Ducati career is rather petering out in World SBK. It's been a tough 2024 season for him. 6th row of the grid for Remy Gardner, Garrett Gerloff and Dominic Egerter. Gardner only 1 point from the Aragon round last time out, his lowest scoring weekend yet in World SBK. Finished all 3 races there, but Yamaha just doesn't have the pace at present. Qualified 16th in Cremona, 15th in Aragon, so looks as though he can expect a similarly tough time here. Garrett Gerloff, a shame for him to have qualified all the way down in 17th place, because he's been riding on great form. 6 top 5 finishes in the last 4 rounds, 32 points at the Aragon round a fortnight ago, his best since the 2021 UK round, and this will be his first Estoril race start with BMW. He missed the 3 races in 2022.
Yeah, and for Gerloff, this is a track that seems to suit him as well. So hopefully in the races he'll be able to come through in this one as well.
Kiko, who have you got for us on the grids?
I have one of the most popular riders who's actually not riding, Miguel Oliveira from MotoGP Duty. Miguel, we see you're not racing at the moment, but how are you and what can we expect in race 1 here at Estoril?
Well, a lot of excitement as we've seen this weekend. Since yesterday the weather is quite unstable, but hopefully it will stay dry for a good show during all the Superbike race. And yeah, supporting Ivo. Ivo is well, not new because he has made his debut a few races ago, and I came here to wish him luck, and hopefully it goes the best way for him.
You're a local man. Is it going to rain?
No, look, I'm not local because here it's very unpredictable and I don't put my money on anything, so just I don't risk to say anything.
Enjoy the race, Miguel.
Thank you.
Very wise man, because judging by the clouds above, you can't guess too much here in Estoril at the moment. Let's complete the sixth row of the grid then, because Dominic Egerter here is one of the stories of the round, finally making his return from injury. He's missed the last 3 rounds, had a mountain bike crash in Austria at the end of August and suffered a complicated injury, as it turned out, to his right shoulder and ribs. So in the space of 6 weeks, he's gone from, as he put it, not being able to brush his own teeth to making his comeback here. He has reported he is still in pain. Strength and endurance obviously going to be tested over the long World SBK weekend, and back-to-back probably doesn't help his cause either.
Yeah, we'll buy Dommy an electric toothbrush in that case. That might make it a little bit easier.
Or train him on the second hand, perhaps. But anyway, the seventh row of the grid for Scott Redding. Luca Bernardi making his World SBK comeback on a second bike for Moto X, and Brad Ray, who he managed to out-qualify earlier on. Ivo Lopez, who Miguel Oliveira was talking about there just a couple of moments ago, lines up on the 8th row of the grid alongside our series regulars Tito Rabat and Philip Ertl, a 24-rider field with 21 laps ahead of us.